Okay, without further ado, we're going to introduce the great, world famous, as in Larry's announcement, Paul Preston. In the new.
Thank you, sir. Well, good evening. And don't you just love it when Sam Prentice comes to town? I mean, he's really got a lot of good news for us, and then I get it. And no, but thank you, Sam, for all the work you do in the Second Amendment, because quite frankly, our nation would not be standing right now without the First and Second Amendment. And that's a fact. I mean, and of course, as the days go forward now, we're going to start finding out that it's an even bigger issue, especially if you start taking a look at what's going on in the world. Is the world just an amazing place right now? How biblical is it? I mean, seriously, this is a religious war that we're seeing. And a lot of people haven't awakened to that. But, you know, tonight I'll try to get you awake on that one and get you a little bit, a couple of bookkeeping things or housekeeping things. Week from tonight, Jefferson meeting here, room 500 in the other building, and that's at 6:30. That's for Sutter County, and then for Yuba County, we're over at Fur on Wednesday. Got a lot of big things happening for the state of Jefferson. I don't know if you know this or not. We try to get the information out, emails, Facebook, and all that. But Trinity County is in.
Good.
Also, there are, and they, by the way, they went out and got signatures. And then Mark Baird gave them the what for all last Tuesday and reported to the county supervisors and said, you know, you guys blew it because now we have a majority of signatures on the petition and you as county supervisors do not count. To which the county supervisors were pretty upset because you see they realized that I think 3 of them are up for election. All 3 will be gone. Just the power of Jefferson. The other counties, and I'm not at liberty to say yet because Terry told me don't say a word. Okay, but I will tell you what I'm going to tell you, and that there are 3 other counties at this point that look like they're good to go. 3 other counties. The total that they're looking at right now in the next month or 2 months is 12, and actually, to sort of let it out, there's going to be 13 by the time they take it to the state. 13 counties. So the movement is alive and well, it's moving along, and by the way, I want to tell you this, and so you understand the significance of Jefferson and how important it is to this country and freedom around the world. And you know, a lot of people just say, oh, this is Jefferson movement, double X, blah, blah, blah. Bunch of loons out there in Northern California running around talking about water and the environment and all that stuff. It's the only thing, the only movement afoot in the world to preserve freedom. The only one. The only effort to technically, legally follow our Constitution and to create a more perfect union for the United States of America by creating a 51st state. That's what Jefferson is all. It's the only one. If you listen to Mark Meckler, Levin, and all these guys talking about the what is it called? The Constitutional Convention or whatever. Convention of States. That is so rigged. George Soros is honchoing that deal. You know, Mr. George Soros, who hates the United States of America, he's honchoing that deal. And I mean, I did a whole big thing with a lot of people about George Soros that included Roger Morgan, because he wrote the definitive book on George Soros, one of the first ones, to kind of out George Soros for who he was. But it touches here, you know, because Nevada County with Mark Meckler, very much involved with this movement, but it's George Soros. So you really have to question these guys who want to do this Constitutional Convention. The reason why they want to do the Convention of States is to destroy the Constitution. because that's what it would do. And they don't want this movement going forward because the Jefferson movement, by following the Constitution, reinforces and strengthens the Constitution. That's how it works. And it's the only game in the nation and in the world to try and preserve freedom from a constitutional standpoint. We're following the founders of this country. The echo of the founding fathers is resonating in the Jefferson movement. And that's important to understand. Now, I've just told you that information. You got to do something with that by passing that along. It'll be next Monday. What is that day? 7 days from the... What is the day?
28.
Sorry, it's all... Well, is this the 21st?
Yes.
Okay, the 30th will be at FER. Okay? And that'll be for Yuba County. We had a great meeting last month. We pulled both groups together and we had Patrick Wood out here to talk about technocracy. It was a fabulous meeting. Fabulous meeting. People say, well, how come technocracy in Jefferson? It was perfect. And even Patrick Wood didn't get it. I had to kind of explain it to him about how this technocracy business is all working in opposition to Jefferson, and Jefferson is putting a lot of pressure on the technocrats, basically. But they're both, this is very important to understand both. So yeah, anyway, so join us. We'll have a lot of things to say. What we're trying to do is bring everything together at the Liberty Tour. Oh, by the way, that's the next thing on my list. The Liberty Tour is pretty much set. We're putting on a press release tomorrow. You should see it in next week's Territorial Dispatch and other places. But it's going to be a fabulous Liberty Tour. It's the 14th of November. You can still buy tickets for $15. You can see me. They go up to $20 at the end of the month. Now, the speakers that we have, first of all, big emphasis on Jefferson. That'll be in the morning. And then we're going to be talking about some heavy, heavy issues. And one of them I'm going to talk about in a second. And one of them, well, the big one, of course, is immigration. Immigration, the tool by which they want to change the world and change the United States of America. How many have been listening and watching to what's going on in Europe? How many now? Invasion. Now listen, I'm using this word, invasion.
Yes, invasion.
Because that's what it is. So we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about the notion of citizenship, because one of the things that the left has been trying to do is destroy the thought, the concept of what it is to be a citizen. And we're bringing that back. We don't like their non-talking about, because, you know, if you're not a citizen, you're an alien, right? And they don't want that word illegal alien being spoken, but they also don't want the word citizen. Because you see, all of you that are citizens have powers and authorities that the aliens, the illegals, even those seeking asylum do not have and never will have until they're citizens. So we will define that and we will empower people to understand the value of their citizenship. We think that's a pretty important concept. There's a lot more coming out. Also, I do want to announce, this is kind of personal, it's kind of neat. How many have heard of Charlotte Iserby? Deborah? Who is Charlotte Iserby? Do you know? Do you remember? This is a test. Don't you hate this when the guy walks around with the microphone and says, what's really going on? So this is her test, because she's our Common Core lady.
She knows about Agenda 21 and Common Core.
Right.
What else do you want me to say?
Charlotte Iserby used to work for Ronald Reagan, and she wrote several of the definitive books about public education and how public education was being taken over by the left, starting in the 1930s. And her books are absolutely fabulous. She's recommended a couple of speakers that will be there at the Liberty Tour talking about a Common Core. One of them is Paul Hoff, author in Common Core. But Charlotte is going to join me in writing a book. So So I'm pretty happy about that. Just a couple of casual telephone conversations. She's a heavyweight. What's that? No. This is a book that I've had on the back burner for years. And the title of the book is called Dropouts, and how the left has destroyed the American public education system. So it's got a big history, and Charlotte's a big part of that history. I was using, as I started writing the book, a whole bunch of her stuff. She's been on my show before, and finally I just said, gee, Charlotte, I want to write this book, can you help? She's all over it. Now, 3 hours after I called her, I'm going, no. But she's just fantastic. So she's going to be contributing to the Liberty Tour as well. Okay, any questions before I dive into some subjects here?
You have a clock.
There you go. You're stealing my thunder. For Jefferson, Monday, the 28th, Wednesday, the 30th. It's going to be here, room 500. It's in the other building. And then the other one is at Fur on the 30th.
Where is Fur?
Deborah?
723 D Street, Marysville.
723 D Street, Marysville. Did I say it right? So be there, and tell your friends to be there. Part B? The fur's gonna fly. You darn right it is. Okay, Clock Boy. All right, let's see. How many have heard about Clock Boy? Well, let me tell you something about Clock Boy. 41 years in the public school system. I survived it. I started out as a custodian. Then I started out working as an assistant football coach. And then I got really big time and I got my first teaching job. In fact, when I started my teaching job, I was still working nights as a custodian. Don't tell anybody. I just needed the money for a while. And yeah, it was kind of, hey, well, you went and did 10 hours a day in the beginning. Why not do another 8? Okay. And then get up and do it again. Okay, I can do that. So anyway, 41 years later, after working in school administration, and after handling all kinds of very dangerous things, because that was part of my job sometimes as assistant principal and principal, including bomb removal. Students come to school, and they have things in their backpack, and it looks like bombs, explosives, things that they make because they're curious, right? We'll just take a pipe and put a couple of plugs on the end of it, and by the way, we'll drill at one end a hole and stick a string in it. Okay, kids do crazy things, right? Okay, let's see, another time we had 2 bombs detonate at Esperanza High School on the roof of the outside canopy. And it was me who went up on the roof to find the 3rd bomb that didn't go off. Oh. Okay, gun removal, done that. Broken up crime syndicates that were going to come and assassinate kids on campus. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. All right, now, in case there's an active shooter on campus, I used to teach my kids and my staff active shooter training, which is a whole different way of trying to protect yourself. It's a whole different attitude about taking out somebody who's trying to kill you, right? Just think of the Columbine kids had active shooter training. Probably most of them would be still alive, but they hadn't. So I take this serious because, you see, I take it a step further. And a lot of the training that I've had for school safety is terrorism training. Terrorism training and understanding how gangs and terrorist groups want to destroy and kill your kids in soft targets like schools. You know the old concealed carry thing? Well, you heard Sam here talking about this. You have to get the administrator's permission to conceal carry. Now, if I was in that position at this point, and of course I actually have been, I encourage my teachers and staff to carry weapons. I was one of the first guys who did that. When the superintendent at one of my school districts found out I did that, he went ballistic. And I said, look. I said, you tell them. No, I don't want to do that, Paul. You're the principal. You tell them. So I never told them. I just said, it's all taken care of. At that time, you don't have a concealed carry. You don't have to have the permission. You can just have it as a school person. Did you know that? Unless the contract specifies something different. So I always felt fairly comfortable, especially when we had a predicted bomb threat one time at Portola High School. And we knew some kids had weapons. So did our staff. We felt very protected. That's the kind of stuff you never hear about, isn't it? Okay, and I want to tell you something. When I heard about Clock Boy, this is what went off in my head. Terrorist act. Do we know what happened with Clock Boy? Are we familiar with Clock Boy? Who has not heard about Clock Boy? Great, we've got a wide open screen here. Clock Boy, 14-year-old Muslim kid, Irving School District. He comes to school one day, and what he has is a small little briefcase, not this tall, not that wide. It's one of the things you see Tom Cruise throwing around as a bomb. One of those. Well, he comes to school, he's got this little case, and he goes into his English class. And inside the case is a clock, and the clock rings. Well, it turns out to be a digital clock. Open up the box and look at it. Looks like a bomb. So what does the teacher do? Calls the administrator. What does the administrator do? Busts the kid. Police are called. He gets arrested, handcuffed, and he's on his way. It's exactly the way it's supposed to happen. But all of a sudden, what happened? Within minutes, I might add, of his arrest, his perp walk, and so on, a whole series of further steps started to happen that reached the President of the United States. School district is racist. That came out. The Muslim community was all upset about that. Oh, we're going to forget the part that he had 2 out of the 3 elements to make a bomb. It's just a minor little problem. Each one of those in the state of Texas is a felony. So what happens the next day? The president, realizing he's been so demeaned, so much white privilege, flies him to the White House to put praise upon him for his creativity.
Too bad he didn't bring his bomb. Clock.
That's Clock Boy. I want to tell you, as a school administrator, somebody knows about how the terrorists work in schools. That's a terrorist act. That was a setup. Is there anybody in here who might not agree with me?
No, but
Just on the surface of what I'm talking about. Bill doesn't agree with me.
I agree with you. I want to add some few things because I saw an interview with the Irving, Texas mayor today, and there's some things. It was a countdown clock. Clock Boy's daddy is an Islamist activist. There's also, they were supposed to meet with the mayor and the school on Tuesday. They called and canceled. They were supposed to meet with them again on Wednesday. They were no-shows because they were sitting in their front yard giving interviews to the press.
Right.
And that school has got 10% whites in it.
Right. Did you hear that? 10% white students.
I'd like to add something too. It was our tax dollars that flew that kid back to Washington.
Yes, it was. But this is what really happened here. Just to sort of, let's make it real straight. And I haven't, the Irving School District has not returned my calls. I've made about a dozen calls to them, including some this afternoon, about 1 o'clock or so. And they have not returned any calls to me. But at some point I'll talk to somebody there, I'll talk to one of the teachers or something and find out more information. But there's pictures all over the place. You can visit our website, agenda21radio.com, and you can actually see, I pulled a video clip that came from InfoWars, where the guy, Watson I think is his last name, presents it very well, presents a really good show of what it is. It's a bomb. This is a bomb. It didn't have the explosives in it. That's an act of terrorism. Now, what the president is doing here, by encouraging this young man to build bombs, is a term for that, isn't there in the law? Do we know what it is?
Called treason. Terrorism.
I'm sorry, what?
Treason.
Conspiracy and treason. Just ask the prosecutor. We've openly seen this. I guess the next question is, how can we arrest the president for this act of criminal behavior? This is serious business. The way these terrorists act is like this. No rogues, please. This is the way the terrorists act. This was a test. This was a test. And it won't be this year. It'll be next year when a kid comes walking in and puts it down in the school and everybody's been oh so programmed that the bomb will go off. That's the way it works with these guys. This is their test. And it's a test run. And this is so obvious. Every law enforcement, any school official who understands how terrorism works, this is what they do. They did that in Columbine at various campuses around the nation a year before. Actually, it was 11 months to the day. Portola High School was one of those schools where I worked. And we were on top of it. And we were trying to warn people that something evil was going to happen between 1998 and 1999. And we didn't know what it was until a guy by the name of Brad Miller, one of my teachers, walked in, turned on the TV and said, "Here it is." We had all the evidence at our school for a planned attack within a school, a soft target. We didn't see it. But you mark my words, next 6 months to a year, something like this will happen again. And it will be that president of ours who support it. And again, I want to say to you, this was all systematically done. As soon as he was arrested, boom, 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 calls were being made, the president was on it, it got right in the news cycle. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
It was immediate.
That doesn't like Benghazi where they didn't know anything.
Right. So you see how they get it into the news cycle immediately. And they were blowing it up. See, they're after distractions in the United States of America. Any kind of distraction they can delve up, they're after. Now, what about Donald Trump? What about the setup question Donald Trump last Thursday about the Muslim question? Which, by the way, he did the right thing. There's nothing wrong with what he did. And his as a result of his answers, and then he comes out Saturday and reads his tweets that he produced on Friday, he's going up in the polls. Ben Carson, he's skyrocketing in the polls tonight. After what he did. Interesting. But let's go through this. Let's relive this. Because I want to show you how the media is working. And for those of you that are still on board with Fox News.
Are they still there?
Who? Well, at least some of the personalities in Fox News, because I can tell, and I've been hearing, there's a real schism amongst some of the news personalities as to what's the truth, how can we tell the truth, and those who just aren't going to tell the truth. So what happens about an hour or two later, after Donald Trump has this guy question him, he was a plant, we know that, a Hillary Clinton supporter, planted the question, brought it out, Donald gave a non-response, and he was supposed to correct and stop the guy from criticizing Muslims.
And the president.
And the president. Like John McCain did. Remember when the lady said, well, he's an Arab. And he said, oh no, we're not going to talk that way about the president. He's a good guy, he's this, that. And of course, hello, did John McCain get elected president? No. Yeah, thank God, we knew then there's a problem. But here's the point, is that within really an hour or so, Megyn Kelly had convened a group of people in the audience style thing that they did, and held court on Donald Trump. And the fact that he did not, he should have known to have corrected that guy, because as we all know, the president is a Christian.
I don't know that. I know he's not.
their actions, right? So she was adamant about this, and you have to go back and look at the replay. It's on our website, and we talk about Megyn Kelly. You can see it. It's just like how overtly obvious can this be? The article I titled says, Fox News supports Islam. That's what I put, because it's true. How can you arrive at any other thing other than what the way they're trying to slant it? The person who came forward with the best answer or comment was Ben Carson yesterday on Face the Nation, and asked whether or not a Muslim should ever be president. He said, no, absolutely not. Islam, Sharia law are not consistent with the Constitution. And he said, I could never support a Muslim running for president.
CARE didn't like that, did they?
No.
CARE did not like it. They went ballistic. The left has been apoplectic, including Megyn Kelly. Pardon?
Brown wants him to resign from running for president.
Sure, so does CARE. You know, when you have CARE and some of these candidates and the Democrats all wanting the same thing, and the news agencies, what does that tell you? They're all working together. And they're working together because they're desperate. And they're desperate, why? Because you don't have the politicians involved in the game anymore. Thing came out on Thursday afternoon. Mitt Romney is considering a run again for the presidency as a third party.
So he must have denounced the Republican Party then, huh?
Maybe the Republican Party denounced Trump.
Signing paper?
That's what I think. I think the Republican Party denounced Trump, or is. I mean, it's just absolutely bizarro, isn't it, what's going on? So you got this kind of... Now, they floated the trial balloon. I saw it on a couple of memos, a couple of emails and articles. I haven't seen it since. Because I think people were tramping it down going, hey, wait a minute. Romney? Third party? Because they don't want... Well, they don't want the non-politicians in there, like Trump or Ben Carson. So this is something that's big, it's brewing, it's growing. I think the more that the left comes forward and continues to pounce on this Muslim thing, the worse it's going to get for them. I really do. So bring it on. Let's have the conversation. Bring it on, because I got news for them. You know, I'm pretty good feel of what's going on nationally. I talk to a lot of people during the day. And I can tell you that the American people are about as fed up as we're possibly going to get with Obama and his accolades. Yeah, it's only 1%, that's the thing. But this is the kind of stuff that they create, and the media is on board with it. But this is all being driven to do one thing, and that's one world order. That's what this is all about. And that's becoming self-evident. Hey, I did a pretty good job on covering those. Polls, yeah. Okay, now let's talk about the invasion. Okay, this is a real invasion going on. This is real war. I had Dan Jenkins on today. He's an author. He's written the trilogy, The Brotherhood of the Trilogy, or The Trilogy of the Brotherhood, or something like that. And it's all about terrorism. It's a 3-book thriller about terrorism. He is a writer for thehill.com, and we were able to talk about his article in thehill.com, which I don't have it's coming out. And I did a solid 30-minute interview with him. He's agreed to be at the Liberty Tour. And he explains the whole thing that's going on in Europe and what it means for the United States and why we need to really be on guard now. 30 million immigrants going into Germany in the next month. With a doubt, yeah.
All from Syria?
Million. Good luck with that one. He brought up a really important point. It's really kind of interesting. 25 years ago, I think it was 25 years ago, this last July, the EU gave up its borders. So, I mean, the European countries gave up all their borders internally to one border that was the European Union. Now, it just so happens, and I tell this story, it's gotten more relevance today as I talk to him, but I know now I've got I don't have Larry back there looking at his watch. I've got Bill.
I didn't say a word.
But he's being prompted by Larry.
When I was going to the Olympic Games in 1992, I was on a train from Munich to, it was Zurich. I often say Bern, Switzerland, but it was actually Zurich. To Zurich. We pulled into the train station at about 10 after midnight. We parked the train right there in front of where the border guards were, where everybody's supposed to be inspected. We were the very first train to cross the Swiss border where there was no border between Switzerland and Germany. The very first train. And I thought to myself, that's kind of weird. Because what was happening was all the border guards, who 10 minutes before were shaking everybody down. How many have been through that before? When you go to a foreign country, you know what that's about. They were all just standing back. It's good, just... So the first thing off were all the druggies, you could tell. They were flying through the border checkpoint. So I said to, I thought that was pretty strange, and I said to somebody, what is this? Oh, this is the first night that they're taking the borders down. That was 25 years ago. Now here's the problem for them. They're talking about putting the borders back up. Sure, between countries. And they're actually doing it in some parts. However, the Islamists, primarily supported by President Barack Hussein Obama via ISIS, by the way, have figured out that one. They already know the game plan. Because what you have now is a culture and a society in every one of these countries that aren't border guards, that don't know what it's like to be a border guard like we used to have back in the day. Institutional knowledge is gone. And that is a big struggling point right now in Europe to get the borders back up. So that's why they're flooding so many in right now. That's what he told me. Now, I had some very disturbing stuff that came to me over the weekend. Some of them I posted up on Facebook. You can see them. That's the throngs and the mobs. Hundreds of thousands of people just going into either Germany, by way of Hungary, or Hungary into Germany. So it's absolutely amazing to watch this. It's like a big, huge ant trail, tens of thousands of people. But once they're here, I have a friend or an acquaintance who lives in Mannheim, Germany. Anybody ever been there? They have a big square there, don't they? And in the square, I don't know. Did you see the video? No? Look at it. It looks like about 50,000 or more Turks, all dressed in red, with their crescent and star, basically claiming Germany and Mannheim for their own. They're there. There's an army. They're there to conquer. In Amsterdam, there's a running mob of immigrants, Arab immigrants, that are going through and destroying businesses at will. And there's videos on this. This is all coming out in the last 72 hours. The war is on in Europe. So I put the question to Dan, because I've been battering this around with the people that I've been talking to. One of the people that's going to be there, her name is Rosie Lynchburg, and she has the Rosie Show. She has been on the air for about the last 10 years only talking about immigration. For 10 years. And we've been talking back and forth and back and forth. Some people are giving, are you ready for this? Some people are giving Germany until December, at which time the Muslims will take over. That should be a concern to everybody. That's what I was told this afternoon. I was told that earlier in the week because based upon the numbers that are coming in, they're not doing anything about it. They cannot assemble a military or a garrison quick enough because of the flow of people coming in. Does that make sense? It's Clowder and Piven.
What's our president doing?
Nothing. No, he's supporting it.
But the Germans
No, he's supporting it.
that.
He's supporting it by having Clockboy.
Yeah.
And you know, we're doing bread and circus over here with the election. Have you heard any of this in the mainstream media?
Distraction.
Yep, that's what it is.
I thought London and Paris were the Muslims out of there, weren't they?
Good luck to that. So the question is, I had Scott Bennett on the show on Friday. Remember Scott Bennett, the guy who's got Hillary all on Tucker about her emails, and he was at the Liberty Tour and all that stuff? I had Scott, one of the things that Scott Bennett did was he understood in working with terror financing the events that are going on today, because he knew in 2006 and 2007 this was going to happen. They were predicting this. And he says at some point there's going to be a flashpoint where the locals are taking out guns. What guns they have. But, you know, we hear intelligence, these Muslims have guns too, already placed for them. This is the methodology they plan for the United States. The problem is, we're here. And, you know, this is a bad problem for them. The fact that we're here. And I keep telling you guys this, we're having a huge impact on them. And again, tell everybody you can, come to the Tea Party, be representative, come to these meetings, hear what's going on and find out the truth. Because it's pretty self-evident, I mean, anybody and their mother, or father, or sister, or brother, can see this. It's obvious what's happening. And not only that, if you watch the videos that the imams are putting out, they're saying death to America, death to Europe. I mean, they're telling them what to do as they coach these people to leave the countries that they're coming from. And all these people, by the way, 75%, that was the figure Dan told me today, 75% of these immigrants are all military-aged men. 75%. Yeah. So, it's on. It's on. We have time. In fact, we have substantial time to get this word out. And I'm pleading with you guys. We got to get this word out. Tell your friends. It's what I open up the show with. You know people. People know you. Act as a community of one. And tell people about these events. Get them clued in. I had a great conversation yesterday morning. And it was a conversation about a business thing we're doing. And this person really, talk radio, that's not the world. It's just not the world. We Americans work hard. And 3%ers, which is all what we are, we kind of have to get it, keep the other 97% secure. But, finally, she said, what do you do? I said, well, I do a radio show. Oh, you do? Tinfoil hat. She says, well, and I told her what I did. And she goes, oh. And so I said, do you know what's happening in Europe right now? Because I just got off one of those calls. Dun, 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 dun. Tea with the Queen. I mean, no clue, no concept. I said, seriously, are you even remotely aware of the Islamic invasion of Europe right now? Islamic. I mean, this is a woman in her 40s. No clue. So I said, got your computer on, we're on the phone, Agenda 21 radio, pulled up a couple things. She goes, what are those people doing? I said, that's probably about 100,000 people that you're looking at trying to come across the border right now, right outside of Germany. Why are they doing that? It's called invasion. It's an Islamic invasion. We went on and talked for about 15 minutes. I'm telling you, I could hear her trembling in her voice. And I said, look, you got to tell people this. You need to tell people in your office. Because the media is not telling anybody. I think we got an instant convert to the Tea Party right there. She's in another state, but instant. Because I could tell, you could hear the mouse going click as she's scrolling and stuff. And I'm sitting there going, well, we're just kind of filling in the little blank spots of knowledge. So this is the kind of stuff that's going on. Now, we have, I believe, ample opportunity to prevent this from happening in our country. And it's us who has to get the word out. Getting the word out is lethal to them. And I mean it. The Tea Party, conservative, 3%, whatever you want to call us, the alternative media has stood tall in this time of crisis. And how many of you, most of you don't even know that. It's the fact you're here. And the fact you have institutional knowledge that these people did not want you to have. Like those border guards. They don't want you to have, they don't want our society, our culture to have institutional knowledge. Why should they? The invasion that's going on right now, and we'll be talking about this at the Liberty Tour specifically. Please listen to what we're talking about on the radio show. But the invasion that's going on right now, just heard Florida. Just actually, I was talking to Dan. Something Springs, Florida. That's the big one. Something Springs, Florida, down there by Miami, outside of Miami. Maybe it's Sarasota. Saratoga, one of those springs. Dan, we were talking about these new Americans in the Welcoming Communities program that we've talked about here, and how it's impacting. Meridian, not out here yet, but Meridian, Idaho got hit. Well, you heard about that. Did you bring that up at the last meeting?
Yes, I did.
Oh, what do you know? Anything new on that?
Their place is built for them to come to.
And what about Twin Falls?
Yes.
Twin Falls, I hear, is a hotbed right now. But in Florida, this is as of this afternoon after the radio show when I got done talking with them, they have brought in 8,000 Muslim refugees, mostly Somalis, into Florida over the last 72 hours. 8,000. That's called an invasion. None of them speak English. They're going to try and keep them in their native tongue. I don't know if you know that or not. That's part of the reconquistador method. The conquistadors, what did they do? The first thing that they did when they came into the New World is they destroyed native language. And that's what Spanish and Arabic are going to be the two dominant languages in America. That's their plan. I wonder why they would do that. That's their plan. We know the game plan. We're seeing it work out. This stuff, John Kerry, how about another 200,000 more? Well, they're already here. They've been bringing them in, and they've been flying them in, loading them up on the buses, and relocating them in various parts of the country. We're just waiting for Leo Chesney to have something happen to it. We're watching that. Tom?